Today's video is different, so cool. We're talking about the MasterHUB from Cooler Master, a device that wants to help you in your creative, in your gaming endeavors. So let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Clef and you're watching Game Tech Talk. This product has been sent for review by the people at Cooler Master. Thank you very much. Of course, they don't get a say into my opinions and they get to see the video at the same time as everybody else. Let's get it. Chances are you're familiar with something called the Stream Deck, and the idea here is the same. However, they really want to push it a notch and look to the future to provide you with more tools to make this a personal experience. But for those who are not familiar, let me break it down for you. The idea here is that you have a console that you can completely shape to what you want and to what could work for your needs, be it accessing different aspects of your computer faster, the volume, certain folders, certain applications, certain shortcuts. But there's a lot special about it, and we'll go over each and every one of them. So let's start by talking about the parts, because you see this as one unit, but really it's a combination of different parts. And the first one being this here, which is called the Flex Base. The Flex Base has 1, 2, 3, 4 USB-C ports, and it's essentially to use based off of the alignment that you want. You have, other than that, RGB all around. At the base, you have this magnetic stand that you can put in one orientation or the other. And on top, you have all these different contacts and you have the magnets as well. The idea here is that you can really shape this the way that you want. There is a general rule which doesn't seem to always be necessary, but what I've been following for the most part, and I would say that what works every time. On each individual part, you're gonna have this purple corner, and that corner should always be to the top left of your orientation. So for example, if I wanted to put it here, that would work. If I wanted to put it here, that would work. And same goes if I go here or here. Based off of the orientation that you want, you could also go like this and place it here or here, somewhere down the middle, like so. Once you realize that this is a modular kind of experience, you can really make it the way that works best for you. For example, if I want this here, that leaves me room for this one. So purple, top left, and that's going to connect like this. I can also have another module like this one, but I noticed that in this orientation, this corner actually happens to be the top right. It's the only exception that I've seen, but it's still gonna work. As long as you are able to find a connector with the orientation that you want, it is going to work regardless. So, but for example, now I just flipped it and I'm not getting that connector, so it won't connect. So that could be a layout that I could use if I wanted, but all the same, I could just flip it on its head, so to speak, and have a layout like this. So let's go over each different part. The 15 keys IPS screen. By default, you get one, but if you were to buy a second one, you could have 2 of those. The 2-roller wheel, which can be used for a variety of different things, brush, photo editing tools, your timeline, and a video editor. You have your 5 volume knobs, which to me that speaks beat making, but really that could also address your colors, your vibrance, all different types of things, or one channel, the other channel. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And you also have RGB to let you know the intensity at which you put them at. Now there are also other units. You have the 3 knobs, which feels amazing. They really feel like quality, and they also click, and they also have RGB around them. And then last but not least is this big 1.3 inch IPS wheel. This turns, it clicks, and it also gives you a visual element which can be used for a variety of different things. For example, keeping up with the temperature of your GPU, your CPU. The idea then becomes that you can really make this your own and approach it the way that would work best for your needs. For example, this is probably the setup that I would use the most. For me personally, the volume, as good as it is, I don't think it's a tool I would use as much. But you know, if this is something that speaks to your gaming habits or to your creative habits, then that is an option as well. And always, these things will be sold separately outside of the kit. The way that I like to look at it is to think of a grid that is pretty much a 4x6, and you have different units that you can fit in there. The way that you're going to set it up is up to you. And you don't have to max it out either. If, for example, that's all you wanted, but you have an empty space, no problems there. It's still going to work just fine. So now that I've showed you what the concept is, let's go in software and set it up for ourselves to see what potential we can unlock with a device such as this one. Now, before we start, I am connected USB-C to USB-C, but I did try USB-C to USB-A and it was working just fine. Thought I'd let you know in case that is something that could be important to some people. Once you are in the software, what you'll see is exactly a representation of what's happening in your device. And what's so cool about this is you can hot swap just about anything and it'll change on the fly. So for example, if I remove this unit, you'll see that it disappears from the software. And all the same, if I add this one right here, you'll see it appear in the software as well. In fact, when using the volume knob, and you're gonna see in real time the adjustments that you're doing. That's another cool aspect to it when you're making modifications in the software, to be able to see everything in real time and to feel more engaged in your changes, as you can have this virtual appearance to what it's gonna look like. And then of course it immediately reflects on the actual physical. Before we look at all the different things to the right, one thing you want to do once you get into the software is, if you go top right here, there's going to be a little icon, and this is where you go to do all your updates, and this is definitely something you want to do to get the latest and greatest. I haven't had this for long, but they've been putting out a lot of updates so far. From when I first got it and after updating it, it's a lot more responsive. So they've constantly been working on upgrading the experience to the point that, to me, that feels ready for retail. The idea here is extremely simple. You have a lot of different tools on the right that you can open to see what options you have, and you can drag and drop whatever options you want to your matching button or your matching knob. So for example, if I wanted something to adjust the brightness, I could just put it here, and as you can see, it updated real time. When you want to do something that is more knob related, or your wheels, what you can also do, rather than grabbing something to the right, is to just click on the knob and it'll show you options based off of what you're clicking. So for example, if I click here versus if I click here, you'll notice that there's a menu more when clicking the buttons versus clicking the knob. So the navigations, which makes a lot of sense, right? Opening a folder, for example, that's not something you would associate to a wheel. So you can change accordingly to have different options. But this is something to keep in mind. What you're seeing here is beta. The full retail version is coming very shortly, and they already have a roadmap with a lot more support for different software, for different operating systems as well. You have a lot of different things already that are there, and the fact that you can have shortcuts, like keyboard shortcuts, that's also going to give you a lot of options, because a lot of software out there, they already work with keyboard shortcuts. So even though you may not necessarily have the software you're looking for, you are able to implement your own tools by using different shortcuts. The other thing you can do, especially when looking at the different buttons, is you can really customize them. So you can change the brightness, you can change the icon, what you'll use. You can also have a background color. So for example, here, if I want to have my background red, you can really make it your own. You can also bring your own different icons, your own different image in there. You have navigation options, you have system options. So for example, addressing your volume, doing play on your audio. Next, it's fully integrated with OBS, so you can change your scenes. You can have an element go on or off using this. You have Twitch controls, master controls, which is the Cooler Master RGB app, if I recall correctly. You have Streamlab implementation, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Premiere Pro. You already have a lot right off the bat, but they've already said that they are working with different companies to implement software. They're also making more in-house software, and in Q1 2025, they'll be releasing a user dev kit so that users can create their own software for the platform. Now, also, of course, you have shortcuts. So really, you're not lacking any options to really use this to its full potential today. but it'll keep improving as the ecosystem grows larger and larger with different applications to use with your console. Now, before I go and set this up for myself, another thing that I've noticed is the app is really the brain, much like it is with other similar devices. While I have set this up on my main PC, I have not done this here. Now, you could export and import your profiles, which is awesome if you don't want to have to redo this, but go from different computers. You also have different pages. So if you don't have enough of 15 buttons, you could make it one move to a different page, and that'll give you more options, up to 5 pages if I'm not mistaken. So you're not lacking options here. You can really fully utilize this to control a plethora of different devices. And this is exactly what I'll do. I'll go ahead and set this up for myself, and I'll be back to give you my results. Stay tuned. I've been fiddling with this. This is extremely cool. I'm familiar with these kinds of tools. It's not my first time having something like this. And I'm happily surprised at how the foundations of what Cooler Master has brought forward with the MasterHUB are so strong already. There's a lot of customization that you can do. Having more apps, I'm super excited for that. Having the support for Mac, I'm so psyched for that. But what is already there works phenomenally well, and you really have the potential to create a lot because the foundations are so robust. And that is something super exciting to see. But let me show you real quick what I have done. Oftentimes when I work with this mini PC, the keyboard is nice, but you know, it's not like navigating a full keyboard. So I really wanted for my browsing experience to be superior. So here what I have put is the brightness, but I can also use this knob to change the brightness if I want. For this, I haven't set it up yet, but I'm gonna put my fan profiles. I'm thinking of maybe putting my temperatures for my PC, but that'll be to be determined. Most of the work that I have done is with this right here. So you have your brightness. Here I have screen capture, so if I want to take a quick screen capture, which I often have to do, here I have something to open up it's a Control-Shift-Escape to open up my task manager, something I open very often. In here I have different pages, so I haven't set them up yet, but I like the idea of having persistent buttons throughout all the different pages. You know, these are my navigation buttons. I know where they're always going to be. So eventually I want to make a page for OBS because I use it a lot. I want to have something also that is more specific to when I'm gaming. But the first page that I've done is definitely to increase my experience when browsing and all sorts. Now here I have the snapping to my windows. I use snapping a lot. By having buttons here, I'm able to quickly snap my windows, something I absolutely wanted. And the other thing I do a whole lot, because I have a tendency to keep a lot of windows open, my return to desktop is something extremely important for me. Probably the buttons I use the most, especially when editing, is undo and redo. So this is something I wanted to have. Of course, I wanted a wheel for the volume, which is going to be this one. And I also wanted something to allow me to scale up or scale down my pages. So these are the buttons rather than having to use control and a mouse wheel, for example. And this is just a quick example of how you can leverage this phenomenal tool. There is so much that you can do with this. If there's a shortcut, you don't even have to wait for software. But eventually down the road, by having software specific to certain apps, it's just going to make everything easier. But you don't have to wait this long to be able to fully utilize this. Because again, in most cases, be it Blender, be it Paint.net, which is what I use a lot. Well, I'm gonna have to do a page for that. If you use Photoshop, if you use any editing tools, there's always a shortcut that will let you do the things that you're trying to do. I'm definitely gonna have a page for Audacity, and there's a lot of different tools that I use in my process, but I also want something to use for when I'm gaming, something to change my tracks on my music, change what window I'm on, or minimize stuff, or Alt-Enter to go from borderless to windowed. All these different shortcuts that I'm going to be able to build. I'm so excited for this, but I'm more than anything extremely excited for the future of this tool because there's so much that I can do with this. And so guys, let me know how you feel about the MasterHUB. Do you see the potential like I do? Because as much as I love my other consoles that I've used in the past because they are very useful. In fact, I use a Toolbox to edit pretty much all the time, but I am excited for the Mac operating system support because I know this is the tool that will replace my Toolbox. It's just so useful, and the fact that I can just disconnect this and bring it to my other PC and have a completely different profile, it's going to allow me to easily change from one device to another. I think it's really awesome. It's extremely responsive, it works well, I love the look of it. You can customize everything from the RGB to the brightness to the icons, the colors. It's a very vibrant experience that we have here, and one that I'm super excited to see what they bring to market. And you know, it kind of caught me off guard because I didn't think Cooler Master, of all companies, I didn't expect them to do something like that. I think they nailed it out of the park. You know, we've seen a lot of different iterations trying to capitalize on that market, and of all the different options that I've tried, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, that's not the point, but there wasn't ever any options that made me as convinced, and it is because the foundations are so robust. So I'm really excited for what Cooler Master is bringing to the table. I think it's going to be an absolute game changer for a lot of gamers and creatives, or just enthusiasts that want to take advantage of all the features that something like this unlocks. If you want to control some of the lighting in your house, this is definitely something I'm going to have to... I'm so excited. My brain is going in so many different places. But then again, it's always because most of the time, for example, my Nano Leafs, my software is being operated on my PC, and I can have shortcuts in my software that I can then bring in here, so I don't have to wait for a lot of those software. Now, down the road, would I appreciate having them? Of course I would, but I can already achieve a lot just by leveraging what my PC can already do with hotkeys and shortcuts. Now, of course, you have different kits. Prices, it's a little hard to say because right now they've just gone out of their Kickstarter. On Kickstarter, at least, it was ranging anywhere between 300 to 400 US, which granted is expensive, but that's what these devices cost. It's also something that you buy once, and I like the fact that the modularity of this one, at least to me, makes it a device that is more future-proof. And you will also be able to buy these different units more as we go. For example, I have all my setup here, right? So if I want to go ahead and remove this and this and this and put this up right here, it retains all the functions that it had. So you're really able to customize it, and then all you could do is have different profiles and change the profile based on the way that you have positioned your console. It's so clever. I'm so blown away by the potential that this brings to anyone wanting to really fully utilize their devices in a much more efficient way. This is the kind of thing in a previous experience that I had bought, and I had set up like 2 buttons, and it took 6 months before I actually took the time to sit down and set it up. And the moment I did, it drastically increased my efficiency. And this is what these devices are for. The way that you can accelerate the way that you use these devices, these computers, is so crucial, especially in a working environment, but just in a convenience environment. You don't have to be working to want to be faster about the ways that you want to do. And this is what I love. If you want a quick button to open up your Discord, if you want a quick button to unmute your microphone, all these different kind of things that you can already do with that right here, right now. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And as always, consider doing all the YouTube things. If you have any questions about the product, hit me up. I'll be happy to assist. Good job, Cooler Master. Honestly, this is probably one of the more exciting PC peripherals that I have laid hands on in the entire year. And I'm super excited to see how it evolves in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.